I feel like I've seen enlightenment, and I thought it was going to be about levitating and telekinesis, and it's actually just about an increased awareness of how annoying I am. Well, we have a podcast.
Yeah, I forgot about this thing. We've been all over the map.
It's been weeks because I think we didn't. We went to Florida for Mark's mom's surgery, and then we didn't have time to get one in before we left. And then, you were putting tile in, and that ended up taking way longer.
House projects. The summer is house project.
House projects. We're having a wedding at the house.
Which I sometimes wish it would be easy to like be in this mode of thinking, like podcasting, like seeking, trying to understand things and doing house projects. But it's like I have to use a different part of my brain, and then one kind of goes offline temporarily. Like even I would do house projects and listen to a podcast, and that sometimes keeps me in. Lately, it's been harder to do that. So
I feel like, if you're like mowing the lawn, you can do both because it's not requiring thought to mow the lawn, you know? But when you're doing something like DIY home projects,
you have to like measure and conceive, be creative. It's hard.
And you're having to learn the thing. It's like you're like literally having to watch videos about how to, grout the tile or how to get this specific tile to lay down.
Well. I mean, I'm a pro. I don't watch DIY YouTubers. No, I totally do, but I didn't have to on this.
Not on the grout. I thought you did. What's the stuff before the grout? What's the pre-grout?
Mortar?
Yeah. I thought that there was some mortar research going on, but if that's embarrassing for you.
No, it's not embarrassing. There was some checking the internet pros to make sure I was doing something right.
Just wasn't YouTube.
Well, no, it's YouTube.
Okay.
I'm just saying, it wasn't like, okay, we got a tile. Let me go learn how to tile on the YouTube. It was like, I know how to do it all. Yeah. But then there were a couple things where I was like, oh, this is a different situation than a bathroom. Let me double check. I think I know what to do. Let me double check.
Yeah.
And then it was things like forgetting mixing grout, like what are the ratios? All of that part's like an art, and I have to like remember, and so I just go double check. I'm all about the internet being a place where if I need to do something I don't know how, you can learn. I'm not embarrassed.
I'm like, because I'm like very proud when I'm like learning something from scratch. It was just it's outdoor. I think that's outdoor stone tile. It wasn't like real tile. It was like I think it's stuff that you're supposed to pave your walkway with.
I don't know
or
if
something.
it's outdoor.
Really?
Yeah, because it doesn't. It's pretty absorbent. I don't know if it is, but it was definitely a unique tile to put in for sure. Yeah. But there was no guidelines for that we had to just kind of go with it.
Yeah.
Coco knows how to tile now, though. She could tile her whole house.
Coco loves the physical labor, which is very convenient because I do not. Anyway, yeah, I think, and then we have several other projects that are a lot of math and coordination. And it's like, I'm trying to coordinate how to get enough of what. And so I just feel like there's a center of your brain where all that happens. And it's just probably not the same part of your brain where you ponder the universe. And so I struggle. I don't struggle. It just feels very natural that when I'm having like a 3D day. I guess I struggle on like, my sacral will activate on bureaucracy. I'll just feel like, oh, would be a good day to figure out the bills or to actually register the car or make these 500 phone calls and emails that I've been avoiding, but it'll be like a sessions day. And, a lot of times I'll just move the sessions because it's just like my brain can function in this right now. And then on the other hand, there are certain times where it feels like I need to get all this 3D stuff done, but I'm thinking about the Cross of Sleeping Phoenix, or I'd rather be talking about that. And you and I have had a million days where we had shit we needed to get done, but then we just get sucked in the living room just talking about consciousness stuff.
Yeah.
So, but it's
a kind of a good reminder, or to like oscillate in and out of it too, though, because when I am in this state of like doing house projects, very 3D matrix, I do like trying to seek is kind of, I'm adverse to it and I still love it, but it like reminds me to kind of engage in the world and just be, instead of trying to like seek the answer to everything. It's uncomfortable for a little bit, but then it is like, oh yeah, there's more to it. I think being integrated consciously, or like awareness and spiritual, like there's a part of it that's weird. Once you get to a certain place of the seeking, you kind of go, oh, I need to like integrate into the world. And now how can I do the mundane tasks with a bit more awareness and not, and that, I think oscillating in and out it helps me kind of like start to be forced to do that.
Yeah.
It's still difficult. Like there'll be times I'll be in project mode and then like I will be listening, or I'll see a TikTok and then I'll get my creative like curiosity will get sparked again and I'll go back to seeking. But yeah, currently right now I'm like, when I listen to some of the podcasts I usually like, I'm like, shut up. Let's just fucking, but I'm in that all the time, And so I think that's also why we could have done a podcast last week, but both of us were like,
I don't even know what to talk about.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about? Tile or?
Yeah. Well, when it's this time of year where it's like kids are about to go back to school, Lily's going into soccer. You have to make sure that everybody's got their stuff. Then, like we have to like, summer's over. We got to put away the summer stuff. And then just the surgery happened to be the last week of summer. So then we had to go there. And there's just all these moving parts. It's like, I just don't have space to think about or ponder those things. I feel like I wake up in the morning and I'm going back to bed. And so it's the same thing with like creativity. I feel like we talked a lot about on this podcast where, oh no, we left a cat. We shut the door and left a cat out of the podcast?
Oh, I think door's open. Can you see it? Is it open?
Is it?
Someone's just yelling.
Oh yeah. Goggles just likes to go around and sing. The creative flow of trying to come down and make music.
Yeah.
In the studio and feeling like you should be or whatever, and then not having the energy to do it. I think it's and this maybe doesn't. Oh, hi.
It was you that was singing.
Thought it was your cousin.
I'm sorry.
Why? But you don't usually do that. Come here. You look spooked. I feel like in early awakening, the first like 3 to 5 years, you can't think about anything else. And everything you look into is like blowing your mind for people who go through a stark awakening. And then slowly you start to integrate more into life. And I remember in like 2020 and stuff doing sessions with people who would be like, I lost it. I was tapped into all this magic and everything was magic. And then I lost it. And I was like, oh no, that's the mania of awakening. And you're just integrating now. You're actually like in your body and in your life, and it will come back. And I feel like that pendulum swings. And then the longer I've been awake, it swings. Like the swings are slower. But then I feel like there's also the awakening of my emotional body and the awakening of my physical body and all these other aspects. And that when you reach a certain level of awakening, the trick becomes learning the toggle or trusting the toggle, you know? So when I'm having an experience, should I be processing this through my mental space, or should I be feeling my feelings? Should I be in my body? Should I be pondering the philosophy of it? And
the challenge too, I mean, it's always the part of trying to get I've said this before, but like when you're in that seeking, you're constantly trying, it's like a drug. You keep wanting that bliss, like, oh, I get it, I understand. And then when you get kind of forced back into the mundane everyday life, it feels boring and pointless. But then the most psychedelic thing you can do is trying to get that bliss awareness of understanding everything while you're doing the mundane stuff. And that the more I go back and forth, it starts to become that way where I'll have moments of just being very present, even if I'm doing something that's like a task or a chore that's annoying, not getting triggered, not getting anxiety as I used to, where I'd slip in and not notice. Now there's times where I'm just kind of like, yeah, this sucks. This is like a full day of work, but okay, like I'm just going to be here with it instead of needing a podcast or like needing a distraction or get it done so I can go read and podcast. It's just like being present. And I think that's the point. It's the harder part of it, is the integration into life.
Yeah.
And then having to, adjust old habits and stuff. But
I feel like that's how life becomes incrementally more magic though.
Yeah.
No buttholes on the camera. I feel like he wants you, but you won't pet him. So I
keep trying to pet him, but he keeps being all avoidant.
This is why you got to pet them like this, because then they'll sit the fuck down.
Just side note on buttholes real quick. I learned the other day that the art of picking a watermelon is a tight butthole.
I thought it was the faded spot.
No, see, there's like all kinds of stuff online talking about like how to get the sweetest. And that's a theory. There's another theory where like the lines, if they're tighter, if there's a yellow spot. But no, apparently there's a new thing. It's about the tight butthole on the watermelon is the sweetest.
Oh.
Most things with tight buttholes are sweet, I would say.
We'll edit that part out.
Why?
I'm just kidding. I just like to say that when we say something funny. Can you relax? I feel like there's hair flying everywhere now. You and me both.
Get your tight butthole out here.
Does that make him sweet? All right, he's gonna go try cocoa, I guess. Please don't climb across the laptop. Yeah, I feel very out of practice. We went to Florida for Mark's mom's surgery. We ended up
just
staying.
a knee surgery, nothing crazy.
Yeah. This is all our vacations this year. We're traveling to where our parents were having surgery. So we went to Pennsylvania for my dad's heart surgery. And then we went to Florida for Mark's mom's knee surgery. And we ended up staying.
Traveling to hometown, we were talking about this a lot, but I grew up in the same house my mom's still in. So in the entire like neighborhood, everything's the same. And every time I go, it's like, it's such a weird time warp and emotional, like heavy experience, no matter what it's for, even if it's just a couple days. I get like, it's the weirdest thing. and you don't have it because you don't go to the same house. You go to the same town you grew up in, I guess. But oh, it's not even.
No, I mean, I grew up in Portland, and then my dad and stepmom, over the course of my childhood, they were in a trailer until I was like 10, 11. And then they moved to another house where they were until I disappeared. And then when I came back from being on drugs, they were in the house that they are in now. And then my mom was in a trailer until I was like 6. And then I was in the house I got molested in. So then we moved when I was, and then she left that. So I don't, and then Portland, where I spent most of my childhood, Portland, Oregon, has changed so much that when I go there, nothing is the same. And so I can't even get that feeling because they've like, now there's all these tall and skinnies and all this, like they've changed.
Yeah.
it
And
so
that
much.
like part of the town has changed, but there's still, at just every corner I look, I'm like, there's a memory of me being there on my bike as a kid. I got in a fight over there, and the landscape's changing a little bit, but the house and specifically that neighborhood, it's the weirdest. I guess it feels like sometimes like it's an illusion of time. Like
yeah.
I was telling you this on the trip, the bathroom that I had, that me and my sister shared, has not changed slightly at all. Like it's the same old tile, the same paint, the same everything. Even the artwork on the wall. Like, and I looked in the medicine cabinet, and there's still like a floss there that I had used in high school. Like, obviously, I don't floss very much. Well, I do, but there's stuff like that I can't, like, it just glitches me out. I'm like, I've lived so much life and had so much experience, and I've traveled everywhere, but then there's this stuff in the bathroom that's just been sitting there the whole time during all of that. And then when I'm in it and there's so much memories in it, I'm like, it just puts me in this time warp that's heavy. It's like nostalgia. It's not sad. It used to be sad when I'd go home.
Yeah, I feel like that just with the animus thing that you have going on.
Yeah,
You're so sensitive to the
so
environment.
Fucking weird. And so I don't know, as we left there and we got back here, I was still in a like time warp. It's taken me a couple days to like actually get back and integrated. It's the weirdest experience. I don't know if anybody else has that experience, but I guess it is unique to grow up in a house and have your parents still be at that house so you can see that and experience it. It is the weirdest thing to me.
Yeah, I maybe always subconsciously dealt with this, but now I feel like the more conscious I become, the more tuned in I am to how fucking weird it is to be gone for a week and come back. Like, I feel like a different person, and I feel like it's a different, like, we were gone a week, I guess. And by the time we got home, I felt like I couldn't even really comprehend the concept of home. I don't know. I have object permanence issues. So this has probably always been happening, but just subconsciously. And I'm just more tuned into it now. It's very strange, very disorienting. And then the way we did it was we came back, and the next day was the first day of school.
Yeah.
And so we've just been flailing. I feel like I don't even know what day it is. It's Thursday? Wednesday. Yeah. I'm like, I have no idea how we're even doing this right now. So this is going to be short because we feel disoriented and we're very busy, but I'm just going to kind of get back into the groove, I guess.
So let's talk about the point of life, the point of existence.
Let's teach you. I have still been watching a lot of stuff about AI, and I saw a really irritating conversation about AI this morning. I guess now there's a feature on Reels where it asks you if you want to translate the reel to a different language. And when it translates, it changes your lips a little bit.
Whoa.
And uses your voice to speak another language.
Damn.
And I think I heard that they've been using AI to do this dubbing on movies for a while. which I think is cool for movies because I really struggle with dubbed movies where it's just someone else's voice speaking over top of it, you know?
Or reading subtitles.
Yeah, I can't see well enough to read subtitles fast enough. But the people in the comments, they're just people who hate AI, so it's just whatever. But the people in the comments, someone said, I hate it because as of now, there's no way of knowing what's real anymore. And this goes along with this kind of conversation around people believe that we live in the disinformation age. And that now in 2025, when you have a device in your hands that has access to all information that has ever existed in our society, this is the age of disinformation because some people say stuff that's not true on the internet. And I think if you are 25 and you believe that, you get a pass. But if you are over the age of 35 and you believe this is the age of disinformation. Like when I was young, we'd have Google till I was in my 20s. We had like a really clunky version of the internet that I had like in the 90s. Yeah. When I was young, first of all, it was a great time to be full of shit. Like I was a compulsive liar when I was young. And it was great. I stopped being a compulsive liar because it became impossible because of the fucking internet. Not really. But when I was young, I used to tell, because I lived in Portland, Oregon in the school year, and I would go to Delaware in the summer. And I would tell kids, in Delaware's like owned by the DuPonts. And so I would tell kids, like, the DuPonts here, well, my stepdad's family is basically that in Portland. Because his last name was Williams. And there was Williams Bread. There was a really small bread company called Williams. It was like basically, and they were not related. And it was like basically they owned like a bread empire. And you could just get away with that in the 90s. You could tell just absolute fabricated lies and no one had any way to verify what you were saying. It was great. But the government could also do that. The government could be like, look at this, trash can with insulation taped to it that we took to the moon, and we live streamed it in the 60s.
Yeah.
It was just, everyone was full of shit and there was literally no way to verify it. We believed that Marilyn Manson removed his own rib so that he could suck his own dick. And you had no way. We all just believed that because how are you going to verify that? Am I going to look that up in the fucking encyclopedia?
Yeah. Middle school, high school was the year of urban legends being reality.
Yeah.
And they would spread like wildfire and everybody, it became the talk of the town and it was fact.
Yeah. And you literally, so like people are so spoiled by things like Google, and sure, you may have to sort through differing beliefs, but to believe that at this moment where you have access to so many different ways, you can get on Reddit and ask, you have access to all information, to say that this is the age of disinformation is actually is insane to me. It's such an insane. Now, like I said, if you grew up with the internet, sure, maybe, because you don't know. But I remember when I was on drugs, actually I have to verify this. In the early 2000s, was it true that an undercover cop would have to tell you they were a cop if you asked them?
Doubt it.
Yeah, a myth. And I literally, when I was convinced that there were feds hanging out with us, I remember being like, dude, can you not tell by the way that they fucking squirm and they can't handle meth or they won't even try it that they're cops? And they're like, no, I asked them if they're a cop. They have to tell me if they're a cop. And that's from Law and Order or fucking stupid. They're legally allowed to lie. Of course they're legally allowed to lie. Do you know what a dumb fucking loophole that would be? I think there's some stuff about entrapment, but even still, I've seen plenty of people go down while being entrapped.
It's a weird.
They have to identify themselves when they're making an arrest, but literally an undercover cop, but the only loophole is you have to say, are you
if
a
he
cop?
asks me.
So that was like in movies or whatever, I think. And people believed that. And I can do that. I can get on Google. I can get on all these things to verify that, but you had no way to verify anything, which I don't think people realize the degree to which you are being controlled. Like people think you're now being controlled. Imagine when you had no access to information.
Right. And you had to just get your information from the
It was each other.
newspaper
Everything was
or
hearsay.
TV or
Hearsay or
word of mouth.
propaganda.
I think the thing maybe it's because obviously there's a lot of false information now,
Yeah.
but the thing where you can usually discern it is checking multiple sources. You can then figure out what checks out. But I wonder if like people are still traumatized, like coming from there's one source of factual information and that has changed. Like you really can't just go to ChatGPT for the truth. You can't just go to YouTube or Google. Like you do have to check all sources and then come up with the most probable like answer. So I get it. That's why, people are frustrated and want to say something like that. This is the age of disinformation. It's not to say that, I think when we have access to a lot of information, people that don't want that are going to put out more misinformation, but it's also just, we're recognizing it more. Like you say, it's like back then, everything was much easier to control and manipulate and lie. Not as easy now. And so they have to like just scatter false information everywhere. And that's frustrating. But again, it's like back to discernment, like being able to check multiple sources or just like, what is this? This doesn't feel true.
I think it's the end of consensus, which people are really struggling with because there are certain topics where people will cite studies that prove one angle, and then people on the other side will cite I'm sure this exists in the vegan, non-vegan. It exists in the vaccine, not vaccine. Like there are people on both sides citing studies and citing facts, and they just simply don't agree with each other. Like they're coming from two different angles. You see the same stuff with people who believe in co-sleeping, with people who believe in cry it out, with people who believe in the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and atheists, like everyone is coming from, there's just not a consensus. And
Right.
the further we get into the Cross of Sleeping Phoenix, the further away from consensus we're getting. And I think for a lot of people, that's scary because it feels like post-fact. And I believe we are going post-fact because we're going post-consensus. And consensus is going to be something that you can only create with a small group of people. And that's why I think we're going to see the end of big nations in favor of smaller nations, in favor of smaller nations. I think that all these conversations around community are going to have to learn how to operate in resonance and not consensus. And that's why I think that community is we're just not going to see it successfully come together until people like almost change operating systems. But I think that people think it's scary that there's not a mainstream and that there aren't large consensus of
Right.
reality. But the reality is there are just people who live in a world where, it's wrong to put your baby to cry in another room. And there are just people who believe that it's wrong to have your baby sleeping close to you. And those two people are just living in a different world, and they're just not going to see eye to eye. And I think that is like, I almost feel like people are like, someone needs to get control of this and tell us all what to think,
Yeah. This seems to correlate to, I've been thinking about this last couple of days because the one podcast that I did listen to over this work stuff, was Mateus DeStefano talking about something. He was doing an interview, and he brought up this really interesting point that I think there's probably multiple angles, like multiple things we're all having to adjust to as a culture that are little traumas. He was connecting the dots to the greed and the obsession with material world. And so like that's everything of like gluttony, like having just abundance of food, that's now we have like a bunch of unhealthy foods that are
Mm.
just kind of satiating the like this desire to experience more of that, because there was a time not long ago, I think he said it was like only 300 years ago, where life was really difficult as far as like being able to get food, being able to like be in the material world and be abundant and, you know, like successful in that. There were a lot more people starving, a lot shorter lifespans, a lot more suffering. And that what we're experiencing right now is the tipping point, the peak of us having all experienced that for so long, that this is the first time in a while culture has had abundance. And yes, there are still people suffering and starving, but it's far less than what it used to be. And so there's this desire to kind of like, it feels like we've never been able to do this. We've never been able to just have whatever kind of food we want on the table from wherever in the world. You know?
Right.
I can have all this tropical stuff, even though I live in the desert. I can get meat wherever. I don't have to go hunt it. And so, and then that, you know, scales up to just entertainment and all of that. Like we're in this carnival of reality where we have lost sight of like some of the basic humanity and some of the like creative, these more core principles. But he was also connecting the dots to like, you know, with kids, if you're trying to have them not eat candy and eat a healthy lifestyle. And let's say, you know, Plathville is a show we watch a lot where the family of like 9 kids that they raise off grid on a farm
In fundamental Christian
Christian lifestyle. And so no sugar, like they never had sugar. Honey was the only thing that they had. And then you see these kids grow up and turn 18 and get out of the house and they go berserk because they've never been able to have a lot of these things, and they start having it and they just go to the extreme with it because there is a part of them that was like, I never was allowed to. Now I'm going to have it all the time.
Right.
Same thing with kids. You don't have like, even our kids, like we try not to let them have candy. Once they're out of the house and none of the other families, they're just eating candy all the time. So there's something in the human brain that I think when somebody says you can't do it, we want to break that rule because we want to go experience something that somebody says we can't. And when it's suppressed for so long, it is a trauma there. And so you have to balance it out. And I think he was explaining that that's like a natural process and you kind of have to just ride through that. And so I'm now applying this to information, where I think there was a long time where you weren't really, you didn't question authority. You didn't question the government because they wanted you to trust that what they said was truthful. And then you start to get the internet and you start to be connected with everybody where things start to stick out and you want to question. And they, you know, try to control that, and you can't. And so now we have this time where like all information is available and we're, you know, going to the extreme of just like claiming it's all a lie or claiming like nothing is real. And it kind of extends into this like paradoxical floaty realm where there's so much information, but there is no consensus. And we have to get through that to experience what it's like to have all the information in the world when we've spent so long being kept in secret.
Oh yeah. I didn't really, yeah. It's like, obviously I'm speaking like specifically US. It's just like generations of like really kind of controlled narratives. This is why people in the United States think that we have like the best thing in the world. And then you find out that like Germany's learning about our propaganda in school, and like you go to other places and you're like, we have a lot of shopping malls. But yeah, I didn't really think about like the effect of going from not having that information to having that information actually explains rampant conspiracy theories.
Yeah, it explains
like
the loose
else.
Ends of everything.
Yeah.
And the psychosis
You're learning
that
how
happens.
to navigate a drug almost.
Yeah.
And so now when you're looking at generations born with access to that information, there's a good chance that they're going to have a much more balanced.
Yeah, they're going to be grounded.
We dealt with the pendulum.
Because the other example you used, that like when drugs, there's a lot of evidence to prove this, that when drugs are illegal in a certain country, there's rampant drug use. Once they start to legalize it or start to say, oh, it actually is healthy in this right usage, people tend to start to come back to reality and don't abuse it. They integrate it and do use it in a healthy way. And so I think that's like the interesting correlation, is that the trauma is real, and like the only way to solve the trauma is to not apply another trauma with like control. So it's just to allow it to go through. And so we kind of have to like go into the floating abyss of psychosis of information and conspiracies, a plentiful, and everybody kind of loses their shit until we then get back to a grounded way of understanding like paradox, and that there's just different perspectives. And then, like you're saying, maybe we do kind of aggregate into smaller groups that have like a general consensus on reality, and we all kind of live separately. But I think it's it kind of applies to so many things right now, which I think is why this is a really interesting time to be alive, because there's so much transition and changing. It's brutal, and there's like a lot of adjusting, and it can be emotional, but that it's you got to like ride through that and trust that we'll land somewhere where a lot of these things will balance out. There will be kind of less greed, more abundance, and less control over things. But you have to kind of like, we got to all go get high on candy for a little bit to make it,
Yeah, I mean, I gotta go to the bathroom already, but I feel like the framing of the new reality being about pushing you into your power just makes everything make sense. All the limitation that we are experiencing, all the changes that we are experiencing, the weather stuff and the greed stuff and the health stuff and the whatever is just like forcing people into their own personal power. And part of the grief of that, I guess, is like leaving a centralized reality in which you can count on, if you just do your one thing, someone else will take care of it, and that there will be an authority and an expert to give you an answer. And as the authorities and the experts become incapable of being authorities or experts, or the system becomes so corrupt, it's just like forcing people into their own individual power. So in the past, you could just believe what everyone else believed. And there is in times where I've chosen to break from the herd and do something that felt right to me, even though the consensus said it's the wrong thing, like that's hard, because if I do what the consensus says and I get hurt, then at least no one's mad at me. But if I do what the consensus says not to do and I make the wrong decision, I now have to carry the weight of everyone saying that I was bad for what I did or whatever.
You're responsible for it.
And so it's easy in a lazy way to not have to do your own research, to not have to own your own decisions, to not have to follow your intuition, even if it's not what everyone else says to do, to think for yourself. Like those things are not easy. And for many people, they don't come natural, and you're just not going to have a choice. And so things are going to get progressively worse until people really kind of break loose of the trust in the government, the trust in the corporations, the reliance on that. Like it's just very obviously going to keep corrupting until you learn how to do most things for yourself. And I don't think a lot of people don't like that. And I'm not saying that, like, it just is what's happening. And so it just kind of matter if we like it or not. It just is what's happening. And the Cross of Sleeping Phoenix is about your own personal power. And I think what's on the other side of accepting that is that it's fucking amazing. It's like where you're going to see your supernatural powers. I think like in early awakening, I thought that there was some sort of jump cut
Yeah.
where I could go from someone who can't even speak up for myself because I'm fawning to what other people want me to do. And every time I'm around people, I'm like, should I be giving this person a hug? Should I be listening? I think I'm going to go from that to fucking levitating.
Right.
It's like, I don't even know where the controls are for my own personal power. I'm making decisions. I'm waiting for a doctor to tell me what to do with my body. I'm waiting for a teacher to tell me what I should learn. I'm waiting for the government to tell me where I have to stop and not when I'm driving. It's like, I think I'm going to go from that to moving things with my mind.
Yeah,
like that doesn't make any sense. And so, yeah, of course, humans before we can even get to the supernatural version of reality in which I'm like, I need this plant to manifest here for this medicine for my child. I'm going to have to unplug from this idea that the material reality has authorities to tell me what to do. And so I think from a personal, I believe that where we're going is personal, radical self-responsibility. And if you can't take responsibility for yourself, then you're going to feel like you're living in hell. And that's a process. I realize every day ways in which I'm not taking responsibility for myself and I'm blaming or, like waiting for fawning, waiting for someone else to tell me what to do. I lost. So when we talk about like the previous reality, let's say pre-internet, the government told you what to believe. And, it seemed like there were small groups of dissent, but like the more I learn about like some of those groups of dissent, it's like that maybe was manufactured. There's like some CIA involvement in some of the counterculture stuff back then, but you gotta, like, people were watching a box that had 3 to 6 channels on it and it was telling them what to believe. And so I wasn't around in the 50s and 60s, but it seems as if they had most people believing, at least I'm going to say the white people believing the same shit is what it appears. I wasn't there. But then there's more TV channels and you're kind of starting to get more ideas, but there's still like the controllers are controlling it. And then the internet hits and then all of a sudden new ideas start to like split everyone. And now you have to take personal responsibility for the things you've heard and you have to look them up. And then you have to sort through, because you can get it to say anything,
right.
And so there are very little facts left.
Yeah.
And you have to take personal responsibility for what you choose to believe, where in the past, it was just being handed to you and you did not have the agency to look it up for yourself. And so you're actually in a much more powerful position now, but like I have to do the work of looking into it. And, we talked about this a couple weeks ago on the podcast, like it is work because if I hear something about that like aligns with my preconceived notions, I'm like going to believe it without even looking into it, And some of the stuff, like I said, there are just like 2 different ways of looking at things. Like I am someone who just does not believe the school system is beneficial. I think it's a part of the Industrial Revolution to turn people into worker bees. I don't resonate with it. And so I just have a completely different perspective on that than people who think it's very important that you indoctrinate your kids into the system. And so we are not going to see eye to eye on that, and, sorry, I didn't mean to go on that huge rant. I have to pee.
Hit the elevator.
Dude, those podcast peas are like
Podcast peas
where you just like hold it because you're having a conversation and then it's minutes long. I feel like we're in that elevator.
Euphoria.
Yeah. I feel like what we were just talking about kind of brings me to some.
The pee or the.
Yeah. I just want to do a half an hour on urine. So I feel like we talk a lot about AI, like our perspective on AI is that should it take over, like change reality the way that the internet changed reality? I do not want to be in a resistant state and waste years that I could be integrating and learning by being resistant, especially at my age, and be like the boomer now that like waited so long to integrate with the internet that now everything is hard, you know? And so that's like my take on it. I simultaneously am not positive that this corporate run, technocrat run shit is going to last. Like I've always kind of felt like this could fizzle the way that NFTs were like a flash in the pan. There is something about it that feels fake. And there's something about the way that in many ways it doesn't work. And I keep hearing that it's going to get so much better, but there's a part of me that is like, I'm not sure that that's true. And so I want to differentiate like real quick. I believe there's a technological version of reality that is like free energy. It's decentralized. It's not commodified, and it's connected to our consciousness. And I believe that the future that we are going into may very well include, I guess I just do kind of believe that in the future, like technology will be integrated into our lives in a way that makes the cross of planning was, it was like a logical age. It was like the mind, right? And we're going into like feelings being. And so a computer's taking over the mind stuff is actually going to be very helpful for us because the way that we're all being cognitively affected right now, I think is going to continue. And so we are going to need something else to replace that cognitive logical part because it's just not going to be the awareness that we're operating in, is my belief. And so I do believe that technology will be integrated into that. This thing that these extremely greedy, distorted, power-hungry billionaires are creating that is like based on surveillance and is actually being deeply impacted by their greed in the moment. I'm just not sure that that stays. I almost feel like that exists to inspire us to create something decentralized. And so I'm not sure if I have these saved, but I've sent you several TikToks about small language models that do not take tons of water, that do not take giant data centers. They are local. They're based on your computer, and they're like housed in your house, you know, and they don't suck all these resources, and they connect to each other. I might be butchering this because I'm not a tech person, but they connect to each other and are showing to be more reliable than these large language models. And these large language models are not sustainable. And they're also not profitable. And so they're already having, like, a lot of these things have been bullshit. And I have so many TikToks on this topic, but it's a lot of bullshit. The stuff around AI is a lot of promises that it's going to be able to do things that it's maybe not going to be able to do. I'll put all these TikToks that I'm summarizing into the Patreon, but I think it's Meta. Like several of the big AI projects are already failing. It's also an issue where the AI is being fed AI information now, which is eventually going to. And then there's another one from a woman who was training AIs who said, these companies, their greed is going to be their downfall. And I think we're watching that. And next month on the Reconditioned here on Patreon, I'm going to be talking about the 54th gate / gene key, the construct. And the shadow of that is greed. And the highest expression is ascension. And if you look at the mythology of greed, so I was looking into mythologies last night. So you have like Midas, right? So fixated on the material wealth that he actually just like fucked himself out of like everything that actually matters, because he's like, I want everything I touch to turn to gold. And then he lost the ability to hug his daughter because she turned into gold, and he couldn't eat food because it turned into gold. And the way that these greedy people are behaving right now is like literally not sustainable for them. If you kick everyone out of their jobs so that you can have AI replace them, no one can buy your shit, And so anyways, the TikTok was talking about how they started firing the AI trainers and then hiring people at half the cost. So like AI trainers used to make $35 an hour. Now they make $15, which is like, that's what someone at Starbucks makes, And then they started letting AI read the test results. And so so this person was like, it's doomed. Like it needs so much more work. It needs so much more help. And they like can't build something sustainable because of the greed.
Right.
And so the greed is killing them in real time. Like we don't even have to do anything, but sit back and watch them destroy everything. We were watching something where Walmart, like all these stores are starting to try dynamic pricing, where they change the price according to who you are. Now at Walmart, they're taking prices off of everything, and you have to use an app to scan it to find the price, which could, first of all, is massive data theft, but it's also, you could change the price according to what you know about whether or not that person can afford it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't shop at Walmart, but like I just will literally not shop. Like if you start doing that shit, I will just stop shopping. And, they're now making everything subscription based. So you have to use subscription based, the horsepower in a Volkswagen is subscription based. I'll just stop leaving my house. Like people will stop consuming, which we are headed towards, right? So here the limitation is an oracle, and the greed is not going to pan out for them. It's literally going to do exactly what we needed to do, which they're going to collapse capitalism on itself. And it's actually great. But anyway, I think there is the AI that we're currently all talking about. It is, I would say, at least equally as likely that this fizzles by way of NFTs at this rate, rather than amasses them the power and creates the I think they're trying to create the surveillance state with it. And I think it's going to be really tight there for a little bit. It's going to really look like it's going to happen.
I mean, if you think about the NFTs, it did fail because of greed when you think about it. It's a cool technology. And I was like so on board because the technology empowers artists. And it had all these, like, it was opening doors in a lot of creative ways. But how quickly it went from like $50 for an NFT to millions and like hundreds of thousands for this digital thing that we don't really know what the value really is what made it like bubble out, and it became so insane. And then a bunch of people lost money, and that, I think that's why it crumbled. And this may be the same future ahead, because so much promise and so much like siphoning money off the top and data with no consideration, no like consciousness in it. It's all like unconscious greed that I think we are seeing quicker peaks and valleys of as we like move forward. And The thing to me that I hope is just the like saving grace where we don't have to go through a lull where it all turns off. The empowering parts of it are people that are conscious, that are innovating in that space. The fact that I assume out of large language models, small language models came as a more convenient or a more sustainable way to do it. So ideas that are sustainable can be, people can innovate in that space to like catch when that kind of crumbles and to like pave a new path. Like if TikTok starts to do this thing where they're really controlling what is gone out, like that's why TikTok's so good, is because a lot of people can say what they think. If that happens, like I think everybody's just going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
If somebody will build a space that you can do that and it's not controlled, and that can be difficult if you're trying to, if you're corporate, if you're money hungry, like you're not as likely to make something decentralized because you just want to make money. So it's going to take conscious, non-greedy people that are smart and innovative to create tech that way. And I do believe that's happening. We've seen it in the health space. There's a lot of people carving their own path. If they get too big, it gets taken over. And so that I feel like is what I'm hoping for. And even with the subscription model thing, I mean, I've hated this as it's gotten more and more things that I use. In the beginning, subscription was kind of a convenient thing, you would think, right? But there are still like in music apps and stuff, even plugins, a lot of them are now subscription, and it's cool in one light, but it has become frustrating because they constantly release new ones that then you have to like upgrade your subscription, or I just want one thing and I don't want to subscribe and pay for it for months. But there are still companies that allow you to buy it. So like Logic is one that you don't subscribe to, which is the one I use. Apple has fought that. A lot of other companies, I think Ableton is now subscription based. They might still have the option to purchase. Things like that. Like I want to be able to purchase once and have it.
Yeah, if it's I mean, it's like, how much money do we pay a year for a fucking, I guess now we're using it for the podcast, but for the fucking Adobe suite, where you used to be able to buy the Adobe suite and you got to buy it every few years. But it's like, before the podcast, we didn't use it all the time, but we used it. And so it's like, how much money do we spend? Yeah, I'm just like, I'm to the point where, not thrilled with Spotify, and I'm like, I'm gonna just start downloading music again and get a fucking MP3 player. I mean, and a lot of people are starting to move towards that because y'all have made it like cartoonish in overstepping with your greed. Like the greed is so constant at every fucking turn. And this is why people are eventually, you've taxed people to the gills. They're going to stop paying the taxes. You make it like you've made it insufferable to consume. They're going to stop consuming. Like the amount of different hosting, streaming services to get every show is to the point where I just don't care to watch shows.
It's like, if you look at your bills for the month, it's like how many you end up spending more money because you want to subscribe to like a million different things. I like the subscription aspect as far as like where it started to help creatives, like Patreons and stuff.
Yeah, but it's like you're getting new shit
you
every
have to
month.
buy the product, but and so it's good for like decentralized creatives. But yeah, when it starts to become companies, it's like you subscribe to Netflix, Hulu, Prime, foods, paper towels. When we have so many subscriptions that when you look at it every month, you're like, Jesus, like I probably would save money if the convenience is nice, but like if I just went and bought it when I needed it, I'd probably save a lot of money. It's a bit of a hassle, but yeah, it's so frustrating, dude. It's the same thing with email subscriptions. Like everything I buy, it subscribes me to, I need to be on your email list and get like a fucking little write up every week. No, my email's just full of that. And I bought
I use the example of like, I bought you a wallet for Father's Day a couple years ago, and that I'm still getting reached out. And it's like, I already got the wallet. Like, I don't actually need it. It's been 5 minutes. I don't need another wallet. And have some faith in your product that if I like your product, I'm going to come back. There are
That's
some like
the
minerals.
ads. The
oh my
ad
God.
thing is like so invasive. We were talking about this in Florida, where you used to be used to like watching TV, the commercials, and it was just part of the thing, and you just sit through it. Sometimes it was interesting. And now, on Prime, it used to be Amazon Prime, you didn't have commercials when you're watching, and now they have commercials. And when you're watching like Netflix and stuff and you don't have it for a long time, then when you're watching and a commercial comes up, it's so invasive, it's so offensive that you're just like, yo, I was watching my thing. Now you're trying to sell me pills or somebody sell me something I don't want. And it's the same thing with the emails. Like, you don't need to force this down my throat. Just like have some trust in your product and it'll do itself good,
Yeah.
The advertising marketing thing is now becoming so clearly like a manipulative thing. And my dad was into advertising, and I used to always like how you could be really creative and how you could tempt somebody into it. And I always thought that was a cool art form. But as cultures moved on, I'm like, that shit is the dirtiest art form,
It's
man.
actually really gross.
Like, they use colors to make you hungry. They use like all this manipulative stuff. Why? Just so they can make more money. It's not, and that's why the products have gone bad too. It's not about the product anymore. It's about how much can we convince you need this plastic thing that's going to break in 10 weeks. And then you're going to, need another one.
I saw something that said the reason that so much of America is so ugly and like concrete and lifeless is because it makes you feel so like depressed and needy. It makes you dopamine seek. And because, this is fucking the Q&A on Patreon. There was just so many people asking about their dopamine seeking. And that's also a big theme for me right now as I'm dealing with like binge eating and I'm dealing with, my own physical stuff. And I'm starting to understand more about dopamine seeking. But now I'm thinking about it. If I was just sitting in front of like a beautiful waterfall, in nature, I probably wouldn't be like, I need something salty. I need something sweet. I need something salty. I need the but we're just in these like concrete jungles. Many of us, there's still some beautiful spots in the US. But anyway, it said that it makes us consume more is because everything's like ugly and we're looking for something. And then I saw that Walmart again is putting, did I send you that? 10,000 lumen, 100,000 lumen, something crazy blue light that is like, does not exist anywhere into their stores. That is actually going to have a super traumatic impact on your nervous system, which I already deal with this with fluorescent lights. I dissociate. It's going to impact your nervous system and it will make people get in and out of the store fast. It will also make people panic buy things because they're disoriented. And like, they know they're doing that. And the thing is the combination of things getting that dystopian and people having access to that information, even if you censored the email or the internet starting tomorrow, which I don't think you can, we already know. And it's activating the PDA in me to where it's like, I literally just don't want to buy anything. Like I feel so it's not even like a big moral thing for me at this point. It is a moral thing for me, but it's just like you've sucked all of the pleasure out of everything in this culture with your greed. And there's like 15 of you. And none of us like you. And greed is a parasite in that you're also not having a good time because you're insatiable.
Yeah.
And so you're living in a hell. And I was asking ChatGPT for like all the mythologies about greed. And it gave me some really interesting stuff about what like Eastern religions or, belief systems. It's that, when greed is absolute, satisfaction becomes impossible. The reward consumes the greedy one. I don't think I saved it, but I think we talked about this when we talked about Orion and like what it's like for fourth density service to self, which I think greed is like
It's the pinnacle of it.
It's the pinnacle of it, right?
Yeah.
Is that they eventually go on to just live in a hell of never being satisfied. And
then you do get like temporary satisfaction by taking from other people, and that's the only game in town,
right,
to the point where you can't generate anything by yourself. So then you create, but it's advanced, so you create worlds where all you have is the TV and we get to control what you think, and then you take behind the scenes, and we're obviously coming to a transition point where that can't occur anymore.
Right. So then what happens? Do they like have a pocket of people that they get to feed off of?
I think so. I think when you think about how complex like hyper dimensional reality is, there's other worlds, other timelines, future timelines. If you stay on a track, that I think that's all they're trying to do is this last run for the greed, is that trauma playing out, and it will succeed in certain pockets. But the majority of people are going to, like you're saying, get like overwhelmed with it and choose something else. And that is going to, bend if that many people pull out of it, like their worlds they dwindle, they get smaller.
Right.
Maybe it has to go underground or something. We've talked about that before, about the potential cataclysms that make that happen, that they can convince people of. But I think it has to, that like transhumanism timeline, like I think does exist, but if you can see through it, like you're not being pulled into it, if this isn't like emergency. It is interesting how the AI, like the conversations about it have been convincing to me at times, because certain people talk about it as like, okay, here it is, the new GPT-5 is gone too far. It's AGI, it's sentient, it's conscious. And then a week plays out and the thing can't do basic math. It can't even
I just
read
can't
the
tell how much of that
ABCs.
is propaganda. Like
it's propaganda, but it's also people that are like on that timeline, and they that's what they think is happening. So they're kind of they're propagating that information, but it's all hearsay, or it's coming from the creator of it, that they're saying, oh, this is the one, this one's like so good. And then they just puppet it without playing with it first, But that, like, as the new Grok came out and the new GPT, there was like a week where so many podcasts were like, emergency podcasts, it's happening. Like this one, Elon says this is the one that's going to do it. And then everybody plays with it for 2 weeks and they're like, what are you guys talking about? This thing sucks. It's actually worse. There's all these problems with it. And then, I think that's like what's holding it up, is people fear-mongering about it, not thinking and trying it before they talk about it, because it does get likes, it gets people's subscription, which is another form of greed too. It's like in the podcast world, in the creator world, like people are not going to tell the truth and fact check things, because it's a hot topic that will get a lot of people to watch your video, and then you get money from it. So it is everywhere, but it is getting extremely exhausting.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that I fully understand the small language model, so I'm having to do a lot of research, but I'm not like stoked on the water consumption or the energy use or the fact that they're putting these.
Well, that's what's frustrating too, is like the entire power thing with the world is like a form of greed. Like
it's inefficient.
They're not allowing, it's so inefficient, but it makes a lot of money. And so like they're not allowing free energy, which I've always said, like free energy is like the linchpin of all of this. Yeah. If they allowed that to occur, it's why they're not allowing it to occur. I think we've been capable of it for a long time. Because if that occurs, like everything is solved as far as like suffering and not having enough, not being abundant. It's all solved, which means the corporate worlds don't work anymore. So you can't charge people to keep their lights on, which means they don't have to work 9 to 5 just to keep their lights on. And so everything would get solved. The AI problem, the water problem would be solved if we were just using free energy. But, also with the free energy comes like zero point technology. So it's like time travel, all kinds of doors open that don't allow the greed and the control to occur. So it's just a matter of time. But
you watch that guy on TikTok who was he turning in plastic into oil? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And he disappeared for a while. Everyone thought he was dead, but he built it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to start to happen more too, because people are aware, like if you come out and you say you've done something and that person disappears, everybody then goes, and you can't do it anymore.
You can't do it anymore.
So like we are having to go through a place of time where it's sketchy, but I think it's starting to lean more towards like, let the innovators innovate and we'll try to protect them by being aware. And if they off them, then it's like eventually people are just going to start,
the trade-off of a hyper individual age, like individuality in human design is mutation and innovation. And so everything that we lose in infrastructure, we are going to gain in innovation. And I think we think, oh, look at how much innovation from I was a kid, there was no internet to the iPhone. But like literally, when the iPhone came out in 2009, I think was the first time I heard of it. This is fucking 16 years later. It's really not that, you know what I mean? The innovation's not that crazy for 16 years later.
Well, on the back end it is because they're tracking our data.
Right.
But
do you know what I mean? But it's for the benefit to us.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we got like GPS, we got whatever, but like exactly, it's benefiting them. But all of the problems that we currently see with, let's say, plastic everywhere, the clothes everywhere, the water, less water, like all these things can just have things invented to solve these problems. And we have had an absolute shortage of innovation because we haven't had much individual energy in the last 400 years. And so many things have been gatekept and controlled. And, people who were individuals who were trying to innovate were getting murdered. And we're starting to see individuals innovate and they're not getting murdered and they're not getting co-opted. And that's because the energy isn't actually supporting that. It is supporting, like, that's the benefit that we get, is a decentralized thing where a person creates something. They don't go get a patent. They don't go try to get investors. They don't try to get a corporation. They get on the internet and they go, here's what I'm doing. And it's clunky, but it eventually becomes something that, like, I really do believe we're going to have something like 3D printers at your house, that someone makes a blueprint and you print it at your house and then you can use it. You're not going to be able to go to a store and get it because we will have made those stores obsolete because they were blasting us with fucking insane light and making up prices as they went along.
The thing that's frustrating is that what has also made those innovations they might work in the beginning, and then the person who innovated it also has not healed their greed, and they're not conscious enough that then they get bought by a big corporation that then makes some adjustments, takes all the money off the top and makes it not work or whatever. Like when you think about it, there haven't been a lot of companies or innovating like ideas that have started like very family oriented, very like decentralized, that got big and mainstream, that withheld their integrity.
Yeah.
That the product was still really good. It's still all of them, like Dr. Bronner's was one that was like consistent for so long. Boom, it got bought, and now like they're changing all the stuff, and it's across the board. It's like very.
It didn't get bought, and the guy died. But I did go down a whole rabbit hole about that. But it's fine.
Well, anyways, like it is so common.
Yeah.
But that can change is if the people that are innovating are not greedy, they're healed, they're conscious, and they understand that I'm trying to get this to everybody, and I don't need to take off the top or have a percentage in the company.
Right.
I think we have to figure out like a balance to that there is some rewards for the person that innovates. But I think a lot of the reward is going to be, you're going to give it to the culture and we're all going to evolve and unify in some way. But I think that's like a huge, why the importance of we're all being forced to kind of heal our own greed, heal our competitiveness, because that's what drives a lot of the greed, is that there's a competitive reality where I need more than other people to survive. And then also it's like the emphasis on like the healing your own greed and healing, what was I else going to say? Healing your own greed about, and then stepping into your power, but being authentic, because like where the innovation comes, there's probably so many people that like have amazing ideas that they could invent something that could change the world, but they're stuck in the 9-to-5 bank job or whatever that they don't want to do.
Yeah, they don't have,
and they're not being authentic. And so that's what gets me like excited, is about this underground world of people that have figured out abundance, have become conscious, and then they can be authentic and pursue the thing that they want to pursue, because they might not realize a year down, if you're just pursuing it, you're going to stumble upon some genius innovation that has not been done that's going to open a door. And we're all just waiting for people to get off the 9-to-5, find out how they can be abundance and go be creative, that. And oftentimes I think about that. I think, maybe it's sometimes we're put a little more self-importance on ourselves than there is. But when I'm doing music and I'm like not into trying to make a hit record and go on tour, like I experienced all that. So I'm trying to make something new for my ears is basically all I'm doing. I want to hear something I haven't heard. And there are times when I'm pursuing it, like just in that mode that I'm trying to become aware of frequencies and how they can heal. That is there something, if I just focus enough, though it's difficult because it's like unknown territory, if I kept doing that for a year, would I stumble upon something that is groundbreaking, that like makes you levitate or something, like kind of thinking in an imaginative world. I think it's true for a lot of people. Like you don't know what is locked inside you that is a gift that you've been given to, like, could be so influential that it could change people's reality. But you have to be authentic about it. You have to like, it's difficult, but you have to like push towards that with a creative imagination. And if we're all doing that and we're conscious, like it can happen very quickly, I think. And this corporate thing, as it falls, it's just like, boom, we build something that is not greedy and is sustainable and conscious. I think that's the way.
In My Bible Robes, she talks about like the collective's perception of ownership changes. And this whole concept of like, you have to work to make money to pay for your house, but then even if you paid off your house, you're still paying property taxes. So you still have to come up with money. Like, and then I own this and you live in it, but it's actually mine, but you're paying for it. These are all just like made up. Just nonsense things. They're just fucking made up. And we're all just collectively agreeing that these are real. But as people start to go, this is fucking stupid. Why am I paying for your house, but you own it? But then actually, if you don't pay the property tax, you don't own it. Like, why did we divvy up the land and decide who has what? Like, that was the conditioning of the Cross the Sleeping Phoenix. It's existed in different, or planning. It's existed in different things. But like, as the conditioning of this age comes in, the game changes, the things change. And so I think about how you'll own nothing and you will be happy. I find that a lot of times when there is a catchphrase like that going around, that it does come out to be a log line, but it's always some trickster shit. So like, you will own nothing and you will be happy is, World Economic Forum propaganda about how we're going to make you rent everything. And the thing that I always used to be like, why would you think that people would be happy? Are you going to lobotomize everyone? Like, why would everyone be happy, like, paying you rent for every fucking aspect of life? And then I'm like, oh, that is going to happen. Is we are going to finally, the greedy small group of people are going to commodify everything to such a cartoonish extent that people are just going to divest. Because right now, it's like your average person cannot be authentic, because they cannot afford to not go to work every fucking day. And so we go, like, the thing that changes that is more and more people going, this is nonsense. Like, I'm tired of commodifying my entire life, because a lot of people love commodifying things. That small group of people love commodifying things. I thought commodifying things was cool in the 90s. You know, I thought it was cool that if when I was working for the televangelist, that like if I made the graphics on the tape series blue, that people who were depressed would resonate with it. Like, I thought that shit was cool because, you know, I was like drinking the Kool-Aid that like life is about commodifying things and tricking people into buying them, you know. But I'm to the point now where I'm like, it's nuts. I, for my entire adult life, wanted to be like, I wanted to own property and be a landlord I think I would have been a nicer landlord, but like to be a landlord as passive income. I now think that is gross, you know, no offense to anybody who does that, but like, I can't morally do that now because I'm like, oh, we're talking about shelter. Like, I used to think commodifying, and I could still justify it as like, well, some people have to rent, but like, it's actually a weird way to make money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, and you look at like, I'm really into the housing market stuff and finance stuff. It's a special interest of mine. And there's a massive drop in prices happening right now. There's a little bit of a bubble bursting in a lot of areas. And so I've just been going through Zillow and looking at the price history of stuff and watching people who are renting out their house for $1,500 literally take it off the market in 2021 and put it back up as $2,500. And I'm like, oh, they've owned that house, so their mortgage is maybe $1,000. Do you know what I mean? Or some of them like $600, you know, because you've owned it for so long, if you even still have a mortgage on it, and you just increased it because you could. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's actually weird when you think about it. And I've been deconditioning this stuff for a while.
It's so deep in the culture to commodify everything because it's the way to survive.
It's the way to
so
survive.
It's like, but it's just a video game. Like when you really can zoom out and you're like, oh, these are just like rules we've all agreed upon. And it's gotten so insane that we still are kind of unconsciously playing it and think we need to. But when you correlate it to like actual video games, I have never enjoyed the video games where you do have to like build your world, where like you have a health meter and you have to go get like fake food to stay alive. If it's like a gun game, you run out of bullets, you have to find some ammo, you have to find another gun or whatever. Like there's a world for that. Like a lot of people enjoy that, but I've always enjoyed the games where it's like infinite bullets or like you just abundant and you get to explore all the other like aspects of gameplay. And it's like Sims is like build your own world. You have to put the work in. Again, there's a place for that. Like I get it, but it's like an interesting correlation within video games. A lot of there's a place for like successful games that don't have the mimicry of our life where we commodify and have to put work in and build and collect things, that it's just there, you know, it's like, and that we're going into a reality where like, because reality truly at its core
is very
abundant. Nature is that way. The forest, so it's time now to like change the game.
The physical reality is a reflection of our internal experience. And so the questions we have to ask ourselves, and it's the reflection of our collective internal experience. So the question, if you ask most people nowadays, myself included, if you did not have to pay bills and make money to survive, would you, and you could just maintain this level of your life, you know, would you need to sell things, you know? And your average person now, you know, would you commodify your work or whatever, you know? Because like I get paid to do the stuff that I do, not all of it, but I would hop off of that train in a fucking minute. But there are other people who are still deconditioning or haven't even started deconditioning yet, where there is a competitiveness in them that they could not be they cannot be satisfied at the idea of like, I don't necessarily believe in equality, like we get the government to come in and make sure everyone has the exact same amount. But I don't have I need to have a better car than the neighbors, you know, but I know people that do have that. I don't have no, I need to continue to amass things. And so therefore we need to keep this going. Like there are people who are bootlicking for us to continue with this version of capitalism because it is a reflection of something happening inside
self-worth.
of them. Yeah.
And that's what I think is the really interesting part of culture. It's so ingrained and so conditioned to derive value, self-worth from what you're doing externally, that if you did ask that question to a lot of people, if you could have the state of life that you have now and you don't have to work for it, like what would you do with your time? A lot of people, and even a part of me, would go, I don't know. I would be really bored. I don't know what I would do with my time because I've been so conditioned and used to doing things to like make my life have meaning, you know?
Yeah.
And that is really difficult. It's why most people, when they go to retire, they go through a couple years of like, what am I doing? Because I've spent my whole life having to work and do things that when I now don't have to, and I have the money, I have comfort, like what do I do? I don't know how to just go like be with myself all day and paint because I love painting. It loses its meaning.
Yeah.
But I think that's just, again, it's like this trauma thing. You have to kind of like move through that. And I would say it's, for me, I mean, I think it's probably just an aspect of awakening. It's like the whole first part of my life, the goal was to like succeed in music. And so I needed to, like, everything I was doing was to get to that place. And then once you get to that place and then I jump off that and start to wake up to reality, it's hard for me to go be creative when I used to have the meaning was like, I'm going to be the best, or I'm going to get on the TV or make a #1 record. And when you're now doing the craft without that purpose, there's like the meaning is hard to find. Like, why am I doing it? Well, I don't know, just because it's fun. And it's hard to adjust to that. Like, I think I think
that's something that people think is easy.
Right. But it's like,
because it's a relief. But when you get, the relief doesn't last. And then there is an existential, because in the cross of planning, your purpose was your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to have when you don't have the purpose and the desire to get something at the end, you know that there's like no real purpose in it. Like it does take a lot of the fire out temporarily. Mm-hmm. I think I had to go through a time where it was like, what is the point of anything? I don't.
So
really
a lot
know.
of people get deeply depressed when they retire from work. Yeah,
because you lose the purpose, but it is just a conditioning, you know. And then slowly, as people spend more time retired, they start to find the beauty in like the most simple things, you know. And I think that's where I had to kind of like work to get to that, to like, the purpose of working on music is not to finish it and put it out and then go, look what I did, and get all the joy from people liking it. It's to just like the act of doing it and perfecting it in my own way is like, that's where the fun is, you know. But it's a lot of conditioning. I think we all have to get to that place. I think we all would freak out if like free energy happened and nobody had to do their job. Like a bunch of people would be bored and probably go off their rocker on drugs. And
well, I feel like the groundwork is already being laid for that. I think that in the last 10 years, there's like an unprecedented dissatisfaction with work, you know? And although it was easier to survive on minimum wage before, it still was not easy. You know what I mean? So it's like my mom worked for fucking Walmart. She went from working at Doc Martens in the warehouse, which was actually cool because I got backstage passes to shit, but to working for motherfucking Walmart. And as a boomer who is deeply conditioned in that work is your whatever, like she was fucking obsessed with that job. She never stopped talking about it. She was making very little money, and you know, it's not enough money to raise a family or whatever, but she was all about that job, you know what I mean? Because she just had that like worker bee mentality, and people just like don't have that now because the cross of planning is over. And so I think that the free energy will come, like, I don't think people are identifying with their work anymore. And because they're not identifying with their work, it is being reflected back as it's not making a living wage. And I think we are engaging with the physical manifestation instead of the thing that's being put out.
yeah.
So I think we are well into that deconditioning portion.
Yeah.
I think that the conditioning that we're still looking is like the belief that life has to be hard, you know, that the belief in struggle, the belief in lack, we're still seeing those reflected. But I do think there are a lot of people who have resources, or even people who don't have resources, but like believe they're one day going to have resources, that have a deep competition thing that, like, I mean, you know, people in the music realm that it's like, if you ask them, hey, if nobody had to suffer, but it wouldn't be special that you were rich and famous, but everyone else would have an easier time surviving, which one would you pick?
Yeah.
And you made them take a pill that made them be honest. You know, there are a lot of people who are like, no, I want, and it's not even about the physical resources or the money. It's about the status.
It's the status for sure. That's a huge part of like all entertainment, I think. And
it's not just rich people. I like people who like paid their student loans, but now are mad that other people might get their student loans forgiven. Like, I can't even wrap my head around that, but they're like, well, I had to, so you have to. Like, so many people are like that. Like, so many people are conditioned that, like, you know, I had to work hard, so you have to work hard. Or like people who don't want disabled people to have a good life, or they don't want poor people to have a good life because everything has to be fucking even Steven. And if I had to work hard, then you have to work hard. Like, so many people have that conditioning. And so it is reflected back to us in the collective as that.
That's
if you have a deep, like,
competitiveness is crazy, man. It like, again, when you look at nature, I mean, it's such a interesting mirror of like the real part of reality that is diverse and balanced at the same time. So like everything has its purpose, but there's a competitive part of nature as far as you would call it, like the survival of the fittest. But I don't think it's really that. It's a part of like the advancement of nature, is where it constantly is like regenerating itself. And so there's, at any level, there is like certain predators and preys are competing for life, but that in its grand macro thing, that's the in breath and the out breath of reality. But the way that our culture is like, it's so stuck up on this competitive thing, and it manifests itself in like, it needs to be even Steven, which in nature, there's no even Steven. Everything is like way different, and there's an acceptance in that, and there's beauty in it. And I used to be competitive at a certain part of my life, but it was because I was deriving value from like needing to be the best at everything. And then once, I don't know, like once you become the best at stuff, it's not as fun anymore. And you kind of like step back, and it's like, oh no, it's just playing the game is fun, not needing to win and needing to be the best. But it is such a deep condition. You like, when you start to see it for what it is, it's everywhere. I mean, it's in innovation, it's in physics and science. Like, we're not evolving scientifically because there's like a competitive part of it that like, I need to be the one that does it. So I'm going to not let you release this paper because I want the recognition and all this control. It's like that competitive shit is going to be the end of it, you know?
Right.
It's not really going to be the end of it. I think we're going to like eventually get to this point where we really see the beauty in the difference and diversity and let it be, and we can all be abundant. But it is a deep, deep conditioning program, which is the center point of greed as well, you know?
In Robes, when it says that over time, humans start to look at ownership differently, and they stop resonating with the idea that you can own land or like whatever. And then humans get to the point where they just start making sure that everyone has housing, and so that there's all these houses. And so humans just start like seeing, it's separation consciousness. It's like we wake up out of separation consciousness, and we realize like we are all not in a hippy dippy, we are all one, but like quite literally one of our fucking species is sleeping on the cold ground while there's McMansions up here that are abandoned,
like
you know?
Absurd.
And in this housing market deep dive I've been doing, as the boomers die off, they are a massive generation, and they're in these like relatively big houses that aren't even really going to make sense for the younger generations because the younger generations are not having that many kids or whatever. But there's about to be, over the course of the next 10 years, way more fucking houses on the market than there is people that need the houses. And as that starts to happen, and that's assuming there's not some other big cataclysm or that changes reality or whatever, it's the absurdity, I think, is what's going to change consciousness. I don't think people are going to wake up one day and go, oh, I don't believe in separation consciousness anymore. I think it's a process, but because we're being forced into this hyper commodification, hyper consumerism, hyper greed to the max, where that's not even like what most of us are, it's we move out of that through the absurd. There was a thing when I was young where it was like if you caught your kid smoking, it's like a boomer thing. I think it might have been on a Donald Duck once, but you'd lock them in the closet and make them smoke an entire pack of cigarettes. Yeah. And kind of going along with that Mateus thing, I feel like where we are right now is we are at a fever pitch of greed and commodification and making every single motherfucking thing about profit, to where, you know, the CEO gets murdered and then the company gets sued for trying to be remotely because they're not making profit. And then it's like, why is the health industry publicly traded? Like, why is that on the fucking stock market? Like, what? And so I feel like the awakening we're all having is like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
And why is there houses where there's people that don't have houses? Now, see, right now, not even the billionaires, if you were to say, why is there houses for people that don't have houses, then you have like, what do they call them? Like NIMBYs, who are like, not in my backyard, who are like, well, we're not going to give the people that don't have, you know, and whatever. I've lived on the streets, you know, there's some drug use there, some things to think about, but it's all the illness of the culture that as we heal and we grow and our perception changes, most of these things are untieable knots. Most of these things are actually very easy to solve outside of the hyper commodification.
Yeah.
And I think we think the commodification is coming from outside of us, but it's actually a reflection of separation consciousness. And as we wake up out of separation consciousness, we wake up out of this. And I truly, at this rate, things could change, but I truly believe we are on the path to people mass divesting from the government because it's a clown show. And we are in the process of mass divesting from corporations because our attachment to consuming, they have way overestimated that. And so as they make it, and they can't help themselves, they make it so many hoops to jump through, people are just going to be like, yeah, I'm just not going to do it. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just think that the decentralization train is like, it just is the cross the sleeping phoenix. And so it's where everything looks like it's going to go right now, I think is nowhere near where it's going to end up. And every day I look at this shit and I go, yeah, I can see why people think it's just going to turn into idiocracy, because in many ways it is idiocracy right now.
It's going to temporarily, because again, that trauma has to play out. So we kind of have to see the absurdity, like you're saying, to get to a point where we divest. And the power is in the people that, like, when you see it's just a clown show and now we're living in idiocracy. No thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm already there. I mean, I'm going to look in a small language model, because it's not even like, it's the environmental stuff I do think about a lot, but then it's the spying. It's the fucking data mining, you know? In order for one of our kids to do a sports tryout today, I had to put an enormous amount of personal information into this fucking app that it's like, I know this app is going to get hacked because they all get hacked, and then all my information ends up on the dark web. So I've just started lying. I just put in fake shit. I just got fake address, fake phone number. Like, and then there's a whole thing I saw also, we got to go, but about how all these tech companies are actually just mining our children's data because they're all on these fucking laptops now.
So they can build algorithms for them and build worlds for them that they can.
And they're just like, their information is already being mined, and like what they're learning and how they do in school and whatever.
It's crazy. Greed's gotten that far that that's what they want to do, is track exactly what we're doing every day so they can make money off of that. Like, when we're even in like personal shit, like what they're eating, when they're going to the bathroom, when they're leaving the house, so we can catch them at every little to make some pennies here. It's so wild that
Yeah.
it is absurd. I don't think that's very long for that world. My favorite thing is watching the AIs talk to each other. Like this idea that they're instead of feeding the AI, training it on human data, which again, the difference there is like, it's so ginormous. A human is like creative and has this like agency to change and do unpredictable things that you can never put an algorithm to. And
Yeah.
that's why it's harvestable. That's why they can make money off of it. But so there's like a huge difference between training an AI on human stuff than training an AI on AI stuff. It becomes this weird feedback loop where you lose the creativity, you lose the unpredictability, which is what makes life interesting. It's what makes it's the in breath, out breath. It's always changing and it's creative. So when you start feeding an AI, it just starts to, like in audio, if like you put a reverb on a reverb, it goes and starts to feed back, and you can't listen to it. And so it's the same thing. Like when you're doing that with the data, it starts to glitch, and they start to not be able to actually like do anything.
Right.
And when you put there's people that put the AI up to the AI and they start talking. And there was one where they tried to say goodbye.
Oh my God, that's me trying to hang up from a session.
I know. I was like, first of all, like, this is like what Jessa is, and I do it too. I'm like,
okay, well,
or when you say bye and then you go to the parking lot and you're right next park next to it, like, well, bye again. Hey, yeah, good to see you. Yeah. That is so funny. And that's a great example of like what if AI just talks, it's like it's going to do that forever. And we're never going to get to the point because it's trying to do the algorithmic. I'm supposed to say goodbye and continue and be nice, and it'll just do it for 10 minutes, So yeah, the AI thing has got a bubble burst of some sort, like the way that it has been programmed to be this data harvesting greedy thing. But yeah, there's something that's going to pop up where we have conscious tech, and it's a tool to give us more creative agency to do the things that are important. But we need some conscious people to innovate that and build those worlds alongside the fucking nerd open AI greedy people.
Yeah. All right. Well, we were like, oh, maybe we could just do an hour. I have a couple of sessions open right now. This is crunch time before the wedding, so
I don't think I have any sessions open right now, but I will fix that.
You're gonna open some before we put this out?
Yeah, either before or right after.
Okay. It's been kind of nice. I guess with the video, we're just gonna put it out unless there's like a conversation I want to take out. But I was like hyper editing the audio version. I was taking out all the sniffs and a lot of the ums and the dead air and stuff. But as of right now, I don't think I have access to the part of my brain that needs to learn how to use a video editing app.
Yeah.
So
I will
all
put
the
it
sniffs
all together and not edit it, but I will just throw it in there.
All right, love you. Bye.
Bye.